Episode 60. It smells like rain. Yeah, rain. We'll go with that one. Hello, welcome to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki G. I'm here to inform, entertain, and delight you about all things off-road for the next 10 minutes or so. Why 10 minutes? Because that's about when the weather's going to turn. I'd like to remind you, you can listen to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on whatever the hell you're listening to it on right now. That would be Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Anchor, Spotify, and a bunch of other things I've never heard of before. But you can't listen to it on iHeartRadio or Pandora because those bastards just don't want to return my emails. Little pricks. You can contact the show at 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. That's 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. Or you can leave a comment on our very many social media platforms that I just ignore because, let's face it, I ain't a teenage girl. Speaking of which, you can be ignored by the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, but never TikTok. TikTok is the tool of the devil. Actually, I've made so much fun of TikTok that I can't get on TikTok now. I'd be going back on my word. And, you know, you guys don't want to hear it. All right, so let's get this podcast rolling. So I often say that I am back. I've had the COVID. Yes, I am the last person on the face of the earth to catch COVID. But I got it. It laid me up for a while. I couldn't do anything. But I'm back. Good to go. Hitting the studio. I ended my COVID vacation with a trip up to Uwharrie for a day of camping and wheeling. And I went up there, and since I went up on a weekday, it was a Friday, and the rest of the group had to work Friday, so I chose to go up there early and select a good campsite, because it was a holiday weekend, and get a good campsite before everything filled up on Friday night, and just kind of chillax. Well, I got up there early, set up camp, unloaded all my stuff, getting ready to just chill out, maybe even take a nap. And boom, skies got dark. The thunder and lightning started, and the skies opened up. And let me tell you, being stuck in the woods in a thunderstorm is scary as heck. Trees were bending and flailing. Luckily, nothing really broke, or there was, really no danger. There was no light. There was lightning all around, but none hit us. But so I had to throw a bunch of tarps over all my stuff real quick to kind of protect it and seek shelter in my Jeep. And so while I'm sitting in the middle of the woods in my Jeep, listening to the storm, I pulled out my trusty voice recorder and recorded an episode of the podcast. And unfortunately, it went like this.
And this week on The Quiet Storm, Nikki G in the woods in a storm. This might be the last you hear from me.
Yeah, none of it was usable audio, but I will go over the highlights with you. Check the weather. You don't want to be stuck in the rain. You don't want to be stuck in bad weather. A little bit of rain's not bad. Thunder, lightning, very heavy wind. You see deadfall all over the woods for a reason. And when there's a lot of dead trees or not so strong trees, and the wind blows them down. It's a numbers thing. When there's millions of trees, there's bound to be one or two that are just not up to par. And I think so. Check the weather. Pay attention to it. I saw there was a 30% chance of rain, but they were calling for 30% chance all week, and we didn't get a drop. Who knew that they would have saved it all up and let it down on me at one time? And another good point is, another stupid thing I did is I sat in my Jeep in the middle of the woods. Trees all around could have fell on just as easily on the Jeep as it could have on a tent. Although I'm slightly more protected in the Jeep, but not too much. Trees are heavy. I'm a little bit more protected from lightning, but in hindsight, what I really should have done was just start the Jeep up and drive, just leave. I should have drove down off the hill and to the outpost and just chilled out in the restaurant and had lunch. Should have weathered out the storm there. Then when it was over, go back. And, what's the worst could happen? Somebody could steal my stuff, which I don't think anybody's going to be out in a thunderstorm ransacking your camping supplies. And things could have got blown away and blown around, but let's face it, trying to scurry to pick things up and catch things in a thunderstorm is just not safe. So, don't be afraid to throw in a towel. Or not necessarily throw in a towel, but don't be afraid to abandon camp and get to safety. Because let's face it, you are the most important thing. You can replace a sleeping bag. You can sleep in a wet sleeping bag. We've all done that before. You can sleep in a wet tent. And, my standby is sleep in the Jeep. I figured if my gear got too wet, I would just sleep in the Jeep. Fortunately, everything I had was bone dry. I had a good, nice, dry night. Heck, because it rained from about maybe 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And then as soon as 8 o'clock came, boom, skies cleared up. Everything was beautiful, peachy. Even was able to get a fire started. And we just had a good time. So my advice is, don't get caught in bad weather. I was talking to a friend of mine when we were up there about fair weather camping. Don't be afraid. I've done that before. If the weather's not favorable, don't go camping that weekend. Don't go out on the trails that weekend. There's nothing wrong with it. Although some wet, sloppy trails does add to the fun and misery. But you don't want to be out there in a driving rain where flash floods could happen and mudslides and stuff. So just, I would say don't be dictated by the weather, but be mindful of it, and don't be afraid to come back another day. You could always just go catch a movie and then come back and wheel next week. All right, so that's about all the time I have. I can't believe I rambled on this long. Jeez, all about bad weather. So until next time, this is Nicky G saying, wheel what you got and be happy.